My sister destroyed my relationship because she could not have her one true love, so I made her watch him fall in love with me instead. And this is not some petty revenge tale over an old crush or a high school boyfriend. This was deeper, more deliberate. My sister Naomi believed that because someone once looked at her in a way she could not forget, the world owed her every chance at happiness, even if that meant taking it from someone else, including me. My name is Sienna Adams. I am 35 years old, a freelance photographer living in Seattle. I specialize in natural light portraits, mostly editorial and nonprofit campaigns. I work alone, travel often, and I love the quiet that comes between shutter clicks. My life has never been extravagant, but it has always been intentional. My apartment is filled with dried eucalyptus worn books, a loyal cat, and camera lenses that cost more than my car. I don't need much. But I do need peace. Naomi is 6 years younger than me. And if I am grayscale, she is neon. She works in digital media and is a walking advertisement for whatever the current trend is. She knows her angles, her filters, and how to get likes without saying anything meaningful. She has this disarming way of making you feel like you are the only person in the room right before she turns that attention into a weapon. Growing up, Naomi was the fragile one, the emotional one, the artistic soul, as our mother called her. But the truth is, Naomi was a storm in a silk dress. Everything about her was always louder, more urgent, more worthy of protecting. When we were kids, if she cried, I was blamed. If she failed, I was asked why I didn't help. If I succeeded, I was told not to make her feel left behind. I learned to dim myself early. I spoke less. I let her shine. I focused on photography in high school while she auditioned for school plays and chased every boy with a guitar. I never competed. There was no point. The world already told her she was special and told me I was strong enough not to need anything. The turning point, though, was when Naomi turned 24. She had gone to a music showcase in Portland and met a rising indie singer-songwriter named Theo Marshall. He had one of those sad, smoky voices and soft curls that barely brushed his eyebrows. They spoke for maybe 15 minutes after his set. She posted a photo of them together with a caption that read, "When your soul recognizes someone it hasn't seen in lifetimes." He never followed her back. Naomi claimed that they had a moment, that they were separated by circumstance, that he just needed time. She spent the next 3 years obsessed with him, not openly, but subtly. She would bring him up in conversations no one asked for. She'd post songs he released with captions like, "Some people never know what they lost." She even created a story for our parents about how she had met someone who truly saw her, but life got in the way. None of us ever met him. She never spoke to him again. But to Naomi, Theo became the symbol of a love stolen from her. And from that belief grew an even darker one. If she could not have love, no one around her deserved it either. I watched her sabotage our cousin's relationship by staging a fake screenshot of messages. I saw her ruin her best friend's engagement by sleeping with her fiancé and then crying that he reminded her of Theo. And each time, Naomi was never at fault. It was always her trauma, her longing, her broken heart, and each time people forgave her. But then I met Liam, and for a while I thought maybe, just maybe, I could outrun the chaos. Naomi's darkness never arrived in storms. It crept in like fog, silent, slow, and always pretending to be something else. The first time I truly understood what she was capable of, it was during my first professional photography exhibit in downtown Seattle. I had rented a small gallery, spent weeks curating the layout, framing each piece by hand, organizing lighting and invitations. It was my proudest moment. Naomi showed up wearing an off-white silk dress that shimmered under every spotlight. She walked in like she owned the room, hugged me tightly, and said, "This feels like your moment, sis. I'm just here to support." But then during the most crowded part of the evening, she spilled red wine across one of my centerpiece prints. She gasped dramatically, apologized loudly, and drew all attention to herself. I believed it was an accident until later that night when I overheard her whispering to one of my guests, "She gets so anxious under pressure." I tried to warn her not to hang that piece. It's not her best work. That was Naomi, always framing her sabotage as care. And she always did it with a gentle tone and a soft smile. The same pattern repeated over and over. When I landed a contract to shoot for a nonprofit campaign in Argentina, She posted on Instagram, so proud of my sister chasing chaos again. She never could stay still. When I was invited to speak at a university panel, she told our parents I was only there because someone else canceled. And when I brought home Liam, I knew deep down I was bringing a lamb into a den he didn't even know existed. Liam was the opposite of Naomi's type. He was reserved, thoughtful, slow to speak, and quick to listen. He cared more about health tech and bioethics than Instagram or aesthetics. He dressed simply, drove a beat-up hybrid, and spent his weekends volunteering at a food bank. He didn't need to be seen. He only needed to be useful. I met him while photographing a series on healthcare accessibility. He was the keynote speaker and I was backstage snapping candid portraits. He asked to buy a few prints. I gave him my email. Our conversations started with art and evolved into hours-long walks through Pike Place Market and ferry rides just to talk about everything and nothing. With Liam, I felt chosen without having to perform. I didn't post him. I didn't bring him around Naomi. I wanted something real, untouched, mine. For nearly 2 years, I kept those worlds separate. I knew how Naomi operated. She thrived on exposure. The moment she saw something others wanted, she convinced herself she deserved it more. And she had a gift for making people doubt what they already knew. But the only mistake, was letting them meet. It happened during a family gathering for our father's birthday. Liam was polite, quiet, helping our mother set the table, while Naomi walked in late hair, perfectly curled lips glossed and perfume trailing behind her like bait. The moment she saw Liam, her eyes lit up, not because she was happy for me, but because she had spotted something she could take. "So this is the mystery man," she said with a little smirk, holding out her hand longer than necessary. Liam shook it politely. She leaned in to whisper something about him being taller than she expected. Later, I found her standing a little too close in the kitchen asking if he liked indie music, dropping Theo's name casually like a fishing hook into still water. Liam, being kind, nodded vaguely. Naomi, seeing the tiniest opening, smiled like a cat watching a mouse hesitate. That night, she added him on Instagram. I told him to ignore it. He showed me the request, laughed it off, and said, "Your sister's intense." I nodded, pretending it didn't bother me. But inside, I knew the dance had begun. And Naomi never danced unless she planned to lead. Before Naomi ever met Liam, he had already become the quiet center of my life. We met on a misty April morning at a healthcare innovation summit in Portland, where I had been hired to photograph key moments for a nonprofit spotlight series. Liam was the keynote speaker, delivering a talk about AI diagnostics and rural hospitals, and he struck me not just because of his words, but because he left the stage immediately after speaking and stood in the back with the volunteers instead of joining the VIPs. He was tall, with storm gray eyes, and wore his confidence like a well-worn coat, never flashy, just comfortable. When I photographed him mid-laugh while helping someone carry a folding table, he caught me doing it and later approached to ask for a copy. That request turned into coffee. Coffee turned into a walk by the riverside. That walk became 3 days of nonstop conversation. With Liam, everything felt steady, intentional. He was the first man I'd been with who didn't try to shrink my dreams to make space for his. He asked questions. He remembered details. He never interrupted. I still remember the first time he came to my apartment and picked up a stack of old contact sheets from my last photo project. He didn't flip through like a casual viewer. He studied them. "Your light," he said, "feels like memory, not just photography." And just like that, I let him into parts of me I didn't know I'd locked. We didn't rush. We didn't flaunt. Liam wasn't someone I posted about. Not because I wanted to hide him, but because I wanted to protect us. Our love was quiet, built on rituals no one else knew about. Sunday walks without phones, cooking pasta, while jazz played in the background, handwritten notes left under mugs. After 9 months, he left his spare phone charger at my place. After 12, his toothbrush. After 18, he started paying the Wi-Fi. And somewhere between the quiet dinners and midnight laughter, we both knew. He proposed on a Tuesday night in my kitchen, no grand gesture, just a simple ring resting on the windowsill as we made dinner. I said yes without hesitation. He wrapped me in his arms and whispered, "There's no one I'd rather build a life with." At the time, I thought we were untouchable. I thought keeping Naomi out was enough. I didn't post him, didn't mention the engagement online. Only a few close friends knew, but the fatal moment came not from what I shared, but from what slipped in casually, one sentence, one name at a family dinner. I had said it without thinking. Liam's parents are flying in for the engagement celebration next month. Naomi's eyes widened just a fraction. Engagement? She asked sweetly. Oh, wow. I didn't even know you were dating someone seriously. She hugged me tightly, too tightly, and said, I'm so happy for you. When do I get to meet him again properly? That moment, that pause in her voice should have warned me. I should have known it wasn't a question. It was a countdown. 3 weeks before the engagement party, I caught the flu, the kind that knocks the wind out of your lungs and keeps you buried under blankets, disoriented and aching. Liam was supposed to attend a tech retreat in Bellevue with his product team, just a one-day thing, but he promised to check on me the moment he got back. That morning, I barely had the strength to stand. I drank warm tea, watched the rain blur my windows, and tried to sleep off the pounding in my skull. Around noon, my friend Danny, who lived in Naomi's apartment building, texted me. It was just one line. Are you visiting your sister today? I replied. No, confused. She followed up with a photo. Liam's car, his very specific, very distinct cobalt blue sedan, was parked in Naomi's guest space. My fevered body went cold. I stared at the screen for a full minute before I moved. Something in me didn't even feel surprised. It felt confirmed. I got dressed in layers, forced down water, and drove shaking the entire way. I still had a spare key to Naomi's apartment from years ago, one I had forgotten to return after feeding her cat once during a trip. I used it. The moment I stepped inside, the first thing I heard was laughter. Soft, flirtatious, intimate. Then I saw them. Naomi sitting sideways on the couch, her head resting in Liam's lap, his hand lazily stroking her hair. Both of them half-dressed, the air thick with whatever had just happened or was about to happen. Naomi looked up at me like a child caught with her hand in the jar. Her eyes filled instantly with those same tears she always summoned like clockwork. I'm so sorry, she whispered. He just reminds me so much of Theo. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I walked out. And Liam didn't chase me. That silence spoke louder than any confession. In the following days, I canceled the engagement celebration, deleted our joint emails, blocked him from my phone. He tried once to call. Just once. I didn't answer. My parents called to ask what had happened. I said I wasn't ready to talk about it. Naomi sent a voice message saying she never meant to hurt me, but that sometimes love doesn't follow rules. I played it once, then deleted it. I spent a week in bed, not from the flu anymore, but from the betrayal. The kind of betrayal that doesn't break you all at once, but seeps in, slowly questioning everything. I kept replaying it, wondering what Naomi had said, what lies she fed him, how long it had been going on. But eventually, the questions gave way to something harder. Resolve. Because I remembered something Naomi had said at a family dinner a year earlier about Theo. I don't need him to be with me. I just need to know he still wants me. That line echoed in my head like a switch being flipped. Naomi never loved people. She loved being desired. And what she couldn't have, she destroyed. She never got Theo. So she built a world where his rejection became a tragedy, and everyone else's happiness was a knife in her heart. She couldn't stand to see me chosen, so she took what I had not because she wanted Liam, but because I did. That realization cleared the fog, and then I remembered something else. Years ago, during a gallery collaboration with a local magazine, Theo had attended the event. We never spoke, but I remembered his presence. Later, I had followed him on Instagram. He followed back. We never messaged, but we liked each other's posts from time to time. That thread was still there. A digital connection Naomi probably never noticed. One night, I opened my phone and went to his profile. He had just posted a photo of his new single release, a quiet shot of him with a guitar in a candlelit room. I stared at it for a long moment before typing a message. Hey, this might sound strange, but my sister created an entire fantasy around you, and now she's ruined my engagement. Want to help me ruin her fantasy? I hovered before hitting send. Then I did. 12 minutes later, he replied. You mean Naomi, the one who showed up to my mom's house last year pretending we dated? I'm in. I blinked. Wait. What? And then he sent me screenshots. Photos of Naomi posing with his mother, teacups in hand, a caption reading, "Reuniting with my future mother-in-law." There was even a voicemail from his mother apologizing to him, saying she hadn't realized Naomi was lying. Theo sent it all. My skin prickled. Naomi had gone further than I ever imagined, and for the first time in years, I didn't feel powerless. I felt ready. Naomi had played her games in the dark for too long, but this time, the spotlight was mine. Theo and I spoke for 3 hours that night. At first, it was strategy, how we could shake Naomi's narrative, how we could show her that not everyone would bend to her script. But somewhere between the screenshots and the laughter over her fake tea party with his mom, something shifted. Theo was witty, sharp, and grounded in a way I hadn't expected. He didn't laugh to mock her. He laughed like someone finally watching a magician get caught hiding cards. He wasn't bitter, just exhausted by her myth. I told him everything, how she used her fantasy of him as an excuse to hurt people, how she wrecked my relationship, how she always cried loud enough to be forgiven. He listened, quietly, patiently. Then he said, "Let's give her the performance of a lifetime." We agreed on one thing: we wouldn't be cruel. We wouldn't fake anything over the top. No lies, just presence, just visibility. Naomi didn't need drama to unravel. She only needed to feel left out. So, we planned it carefully. My father's retirement party was in 2 weeks, and the entire extended family would be there. Naomi would attend, no doubt. She never missed a moment where she could be seen. And me. I would arrive with Theo on my arm. We rehearsed our entrance, our small touches, our story, how we reconnected through art, how we started spending time together, how love surprised us both. None of it was technically false. The more time we spent together, the more natural it felt. Theo met me at the sculpture garden downtown a few days later to take a soft photo drop for Instagram. Just us laughing with a latte between us, sunlight catching the edges of our hair. I posted it with a simple caption. Some chapters begin with a conversation. Naomi saw it within 30 minutes. She didn't comment, but she did text me. "Sienna, is that who I think it is?" I didn't reply. Instead, I posted another photo that evening, this time of Theo tuning his guitar while I adjusted the lens on my camera. The caption read, "Collaboration, Connection, Creation." Again, no reply. But 3 of Naomi's close friends liked the post. She was watching. I knew it. Theo called it prelude tension. I called it foreplay for the explosion. On the morning of the party, Theo arrived at my place with fresh croissants and a soft smile. "You ready?" he asked, not just about the day, but about the war we were quietly declaring. I nodded. I wore a navy dress that hugged just enough, paired with gold earrings Naomi had once mocked as too mature. Theo wore a crisp white shirt and no guitar. He didn't need props. He was the story. We arrived just after lunch had been served. The room was already buzzing with uncles' cousins' laughter echoing off rented walls. Naomi stood near the fireplace wearing red lipstick and a tight beige jumpsuit like she was about to audition for a music video. When we walked in, hands intertwined, every head turned, but none more sharply than hers. Her smile froze mid-sip. "Everyone," I said calmly. "This is Theo Marshall." Silence, then a wave of murmurs. Naomi's face drained of color, then flushed with forced cheer. "Wow," she said, laughing awkwardly. "Theo. What a small world." "Hey, Naomi," he said, nodding politely. "Good to see you again." That was it. No hug, no warmth, just that small, surgical greeting. I saw her flinch. During the rest of the afternoon, we played our part perfectly. Theo placed a hand on my back when guiding me. He laughed at my uncle's jokes. He complimented my cousin's baby. He kissed my temple when no one expected it. And every time he did, Naomi's eyes tightened, her jaw clenched just slightly more. She tried to engage him once, reminding him of a party they'd both been at, but he simply blinked and said, "I don't really remember that," then turned to ask me about our next photo shoot. It was beautiful. Not because she was hurting, but because she was finally exposed to reality. A reality she hadn't scripted. One where she couldn't narrate her way into being the victim or the heroine. That night, as we drove home, Theo said, "You know, I almost feel sorry for her." I looked out the window at the city lights and replied, I don't. Not yet. After the party, it only took 12 hours for Naomi to spiral. I woke up the next morning to 3 missed calls, 2 voice messages, and a long, shaky text from her that began with, I just don't understand how you could do this to me. I didn't answer. That same afternoon, Theo posted a photo of us in a bookstore, both of us seated cross-legged on the floor between aisles, laughing at something only we knew. The caption read, When Stories Collide. Within an hour, the post had over 1,000 likes and a comment from Naomi's burner account that said, This is disgusting. You know what he means to me. Theo didn't delete it. He replied instead, We met once. You followed me for months. That wasn't love. That was obsession. That reply set everything off. The comments exploded. People who had followed both of us began chiming in. Finally, someone said it. She always had weird vibes when talking about him. I thought it was just me. Even one of Naomi's old co-workers commented, She once told us they were engaged. The cracks in her carefully curated image began to widen. That night, she posted a teary-eyed selfie with a dim lamp in the background captioned, It hurts when your own sister takes the one person who ever made you feel seen. I'm not perfect, but I don't deserve this. The comments were split. Some offered support. Others asked questions. One said, Didn't he publicly say he barely knew you? Another asked, Didn't you date your best friend's fiancé? Naomi ignored them all. But what stung most wasn't her post. It was seeing a few familiar names repost it. People I had known for years who should have known better. I didn't respond online. I didn't need to. The truth was already unfolding without my help. But I did make a decision. I went to my parents' house the next day, unannounced. My mother opened the door, startled to see me. Sienna, is everything all right? We need to talk. All of us. I walked in without waiting for permission. My father was in the living room reading. Naomi sat curled on the couch, makeup free for once, hair in a limp bun, her phone gripped like a lifeline. She looked up, trying to soften her face into some version of concern. Did something happen? She asked, her voice sweet and sickening. I didn't sit. I stood in the center of the room and looked at both of them. You saw her post, right? You think that's fair? My mother hesitated. My father looked away. Do either of you remember who destroyed whose engagement? My mother opened her mouth, but I cut her off. No. You're going to listen this time. Naomi, you seduced Liam while I was sick. You lied. You gaslighted. You said sorry with tears that weren't real, and you expected me to disappear like always. But I'm done being quiet. I'm done being the sister who carries the weight while you play the victim. Naomi blinked fast, her lower lip trembling. I didn't mean... Stop, I said, firm but calm. You didn't mean to get caught. That's what you didn't mean. My father shifted uncomfortably. Sienna, maybe this isn't the right place. Then when I snapped? When she ruins another person's life? When she posts another manipulative story online? I've had enough. The mask is off and I'm not going to put it back on for her comfort. Naomi's voice cracked. You're making me look like a monster. You did that yourself, I replied. And now you're upset that no one's clapping. She started to cry, real or fake, I couldn't tell anymore. My mother reached for her but paused, uncertain. For once, the performance wasn't landing. And I didn't feel guilty. I left without waiting for their response. Outside, Theo was waiting in the car, music playing low, one hand on the wheel, and a coffee waiting in the cup holder for me. I slid in beside him and sighed. How was it, he asked. I looked straight ahead. Necessary. He nodded. And now we let her sit in her silence. He smiled, a quiet, understanding smile that said everything without words. For the first time in a long time, I didn't feel like I had to prove anything. I didn't need anyone's approval. The truth had finally spoken for itself. Naomi disappeared from social media for a while after that. No more passive-aggressive stories. No more cryptic quotes about betrayal and healing. No more filtered photos of her crying under soft lights. The silence was loud, but I welcomed it. I didn't need to know what she was doing. I didn't care anymore. What surprised me more was how natural it felt to have Theo still around after the dust had settled. I had assumed he would vanish once the performance was over, once the game we orchestrated had run its course. But he didn't. Instead, he brought coffee. Every Sunday, helped me repaint my studio walls, introduced me to his dog, a sleepy golden retriever named Milo, who liked to wedge himself between us on the couch. Theo never pushed, never asked for labels. But he stayed. One afternoon, we went to brunch with a few of my closest friends, the ones who had known Naomi's patterns for years. They welcomed Theo with open arms, laughing at his dry humor, gently teasing him for being a part of what they now called the most cinematic revenge arc ever. At one point, one of them whispered, "This isn't just for show anymore, is it?" And I didn't answer, because I already knew it wasn't. That same afternoon, Theo posted a photo of us at the park. We weren't posing, just walking our hands, barely touching sunlight filtering through the trees. The caption read, "Sometimes the best stories are the ones you never planned to write." That post went quietly viral. Comments poured in from people who had been following the unfolding drama, people who had been on the sidelines watching Naomi's curated breakdown and my quiet resistance. But now they saw something else, something real. Naomi never responded, but I received one final message from her. It was short, just 10 words. "You're really doing this. You're making it real with him." I stared at it for a moment before replying, "Yes, but not because of you, in spite of you." Then I blocked her. For good. After that, something in me finally loosened. The grip I had been holding on to anger, grief, justice, it began to release. I stopped thinking about what Naomi might say or who still believed her. I stopped watching who liked what post. Instead, I started watching Theo. The way he hummed while chopping vegetables, how he read the news aloud in a terrible British accent, how he never made a big deal out of love but still delivered it every day. He folded my laundry without asking, sat beside me in silence when I edited photos for hours, left small notes like "breathe," and "I see you" tucked into the corners of my desk. One night, while we were making pancakes in his kitchen, I looked at him and asked, "Are we still pretending?" He smiled, flipped a pancake, and said, "I stopped pretending the day you walked into that party with me." I let out a breath I didn't realize I'd been holding. "Me too," I whispered. We didn't toast or make grand declarations. We just ate pancakes and laughed at Milo trying to steal syrup from the table. And just like that, something I had planned as a controlled act of vengeance became the most natural chapter of my life. Weeks passed. Naomi remained quiet. Some friends drifted, others stayed. I didn't chase anyone. I didn't explain. My peace didn't need witnesses. And Theo. He didn't become my everything. He simply became part of my everyday. He never filled some hole left by Liam or soothed wounds Naomi had caused. He didn't try to fix me. He just stood beside me while I put myself back together. And one ordinary morning when I woke up tangled in warm sheets with Milo snoring between us and sunlight cutting through the blinds, I realized I hadn't thought about Liam in weeks. Not once. Not even in comparison. Because the truth was, Liam had always been a placeholder, a possibility. But Theo was proof that sometimes even after betrayal, even after chaos, something good still finds you. Something unexpected. Something real. It had been almost 3 months since the party when I received a message from an unknown number. At first, I ignored it, assuming it was another bot or spam, but when the same number called twice that evening, I finally answered. It was Liam. His voice was different, smaller somehow, like it had deflated. He asked if we could meet, said he owed me an explanation. I didn't respond right away. But later, while sitting on the couch with Theo reading beside me, I told him. He looked at me and said, "You don't owe him anything, but if it's something you need for yourself, I'll wait for you on the other side of it." That was enough. The next afternoon, I met Liam at a neutral cafe downtown. He looked worn older than I remembered, like someone who had carried a weight too long and finally realized it belonged to him. He didn't waste time. "I made a terrible mistake," he said. "I know that now." I said nothing. He took a deep breath. "Naomi came to me when you were sick. She told me she needed to talk about your past. She said there were things I needed to know before marrying you. She showed me messages, old ones, out of context. Said you had hurt people, that you were vindictive, manipulative." He paused, then met my eyes. I believed her. I was confused. I didn't come to her that day with any intention beyond clarity, but she made it feel like she understood me in a way you didn't. She said she'd loved me since we met, but didn't act on it because of you. I was drinking. I was overwhelmed. And I let her in. I didn't flinch. I had already lived this part. You believed a woman you barely knew over someone you'd been with for 2 years, I said calmly. He nodded, eyes glassy. And I lost everything for it. The moment you walked out, I knew. And when I saw the photos of you with Theo, I realized it was too late. It was too late the moment you let her lie to you, I replied. But thank you for the clarity. He hesitated. Are you happy? I nodded. Happier than I ever thought I could be. And that was it. No dramatics, no begging. I left him sitting there, surrounded by the ghosts of his own decisions. It felt clean. Final. A few weeks later, my mother called. She wanted to meet just the two of us. We sat at a small restaurant, sunlight filtering through dusty blinds. She looked older, her voice softer than I remembered. I want to apologize, she said, for all the years I didn't see clearly. I always knew Naomi was difficult, but I thought if I gave her more attention, she would change. I thought protecting her was the answer, and in doing that, I left you to protect yourself. I didn't cry. I just nodded. She's in therapy now, my mother added. She moved away, said she needs to start over. Good, I said, but I can't forgive her yet. I understand, she replied. Then she reached for my hand. Can I try to be a better mother now? I held her hand gently. We can try to be a better family, but it will take time. I have time, she said, eyes shining. My father came a week later unannounced, holding a bouquet of flowers like he didn't know how to start. He sat on my porch quiet, uncomfortable. I never stood up for you, he said. I told myself it was women's business that your mother would handle it, but I see now that I failed you. I failed both of you, but especially you. He looked up. You turned all that pain into something strong. I'm proud of you. They were the words I didn't even realize I still needed. Is it too late to be a better father? He asked. I smiled. There's still time. That night, I told Theo everything. He listened without interrupting, his thumb tracing soft circles on my palm. How do you feel? He asked. I thought for a moment. Free, I said. Truly free. Months passed and life unfolded not like a grand finale, but like a quiet return to breath. Theo and I settled into a rhythm that felt effortless, not because it was perfect, but because it was true. We didn't talk about Naomi anymore, not because we were avoiding her, but because she simply didn't occupy space in our world. She became what she had always feared to be irrelevant. Occasionally, someone would bring up the drama, a friend or acquaintance still fascinated by the story of betrayal, revenge, and redemption, but I'd smile gently and redirect the conversation. Not out of shame, but out of peace. I didn't need to relive it. I had already survived it. And more than that, I had turned it into something she never could a life. Theo officially asked me to be his girlfriend on a night that involved pizza, a terrible documentary about marine ecosystems, and Milo stealing an entire slice while we weren't looking. He looked at me with sauce on his shirt and asked, "Do you think it's too early to call this real? Or are we already 20 years deep in soul partnership?" I laughed, tossed a napkin at him, and said, "We skipped the beginning, but I want the middle and the end." And that was it. No fireworks, no candlelit proposals, just us in a small kitchen with crumbs on the floor and everything we needed already in place. I stopped needing Naomi to acknowledge what she had done. I stopped waiting for her to apologize. Forgiveness didn't need to arrive in order for me to move on. I no longer wanted her version of validation, and that was the greatest freedom I had ever known. One afternoon, I found myself in Theo's mother's living room sipping tea while she told me about her garden and asked if I wanted to see old photo albums. She smiled at me with no trace of doubt or awkwardness, just warmth, as if she already knew how hard I had fought to sit in that chair. When I helped Theo repaint the front sign of his new clinic, he wrote my initials in small letters under the fresh coat. "You're part of this too," he said. It wasn't just about love anymore. It was about creation. building something no one else had their hands on. No lies, no shadows. Just two people who chose to meet each other fully. One evening, while we were lying in a hammock on his back porch, listening to birds and wind weaving through trees, he asked, "Do you still think this all started because of her?" I thought about it for a long moment, then turned to him. Maybe, but it doesn't belong to her anymore. None of it does. He kissed my forehead. Good, because I was never playing a role, and neither was I. The revenge had ended. What came after was ours. I received a message weeks later from someone I didn't recognize, a woman who had once worked with Naomi. She said, "Thank you for showing people like her don't always win, for choosing to rise." I didn't respond. I just smiled. Because that's what Naomi never understood. That attention isn't love. That desire isn't devotion. And that destruction isn't power if the person you try to ruin knows how to rebuild. I was never the one who shone the brightest. I was never the one who cried the loudest. But I was the one who learned how to take pain and grow something real from it. And now when I wake up to the sound of Milo scratching the door to the smell of coffee, and Theo humming in the kitchen, I know exactly what Naomi could never steal. Not Liam, not Theo, not my peace, not my power. She could take moments, but not meaning. She could take people, but not partnership. And most importantly, she could take center stage, but not the truth. The truth was mine. The story was mine. And finally, so was the ending. 6 months after the storm settled, after Naomi's tears dried up in the corners of the internet, and her name stopped echoing through my social circles, I found myself walking through downtown Seattle with Theo on a rainy Tuesday. It wasn't a special day. No anniversary or milestone, just one of those quiet afternoons where the world felt calm and the air smelled like wet pavement and roasted coffee beans. We stopped by a bookstore and spent an hour flipping through travel books and outdated cookbooks we'd never use, then walked back to my apartment hand in hand, no rush, no destination. That night, curled up on the couch with Milo pressed against our legs and the windows fogging from the warmth inside, I looked over at Theo and said, "Do you ever think about how all of this started?" He turned to me, brow raised, half a smile forming. "Sometimes, but not in the way you'd think. I don't think about her. I think about you. About how strange it is that I almost didn't reply to your message. About how close I came to missing this." I rested my head on his shoulder. "It's wild. I wrote that message out of anger, out of spite. And somehow I found peace from it." He wrapped his arm around me. "That's because peace isn't the absence of conflict. It's what you find when you've walked through it without becoming it." I closed my eyes. He was right. For so long, I thought I needed to prove something to Naomi, to Liam, to everyone who had watched me disappear quietly while chaos took center stage. But sitting there in the stillness of a room I had made into a home with a man who had never asked me to earn love through performance or apology, I realized I no longer needed proof. Love didn't need a spotlight to be real. A few days later, Theo was invited to speak at a local podcast about authenticity and creativity. He asked me to come with him. I did, and somewhere during the conversation, the host turned to me and said, "You've been through quite a journey. If you could go back to that first moment when you found out about Naomi and Liam, what would you tell yourself?" I paused, then smiled. I'd tell her this hurts now, but eventually the pain will stop being a scream and start becoming a map. And if she follows it all the way, she'll find herself. When the episode aired, people reached out again, not with gossip, not with curiosity, but with gratitude. One woman wrote, "I thought I was the only one who had a sister like that. Thank you for showing me that healing is still possible." Another wrote, "You didn't just get revenge. You reclaimed your story, and you did it with grace." And maybe that was the real ending. Not a grand announcement, not a dramatic confrontation, but a quiet reclamation of who I was before I was twisted into someone else's narrative. Naomi never contacted me again. Last I heard, she had moved to another city, started therapy, and was trying to rebuild her image. I don't know if it's genuine. I don't need to. That's not my chapter to write. My story now is filled with late-night editing sessions, weekends at farmers markets, and long road trips where Milo hangs his head out the window while Theo sings off-key to indie playlists. My story is filled with mornings where I wake up with no ache in my chest, no questions about who I am or whether I am enough. My story is mine, and every time I pick up my camera now, I don't just look for the light. I feel it. I live in it. Because I am no longer waiting for someone to recognize me, to validate me, to love me loud enough to erase what I've lost. I love myself in the quiet. And Theo, he doesn't complete me. He walks beside me. That's the difference. That's the healing. So if you're listening, if you're watching someone else try to rewrite your worth, remember this. You don't have to win their game. You just have to leave the stage. And when you do, when you finally stop performing for people who were never clapping for you, you'll realize the audience that matters is already inside you. And they've been waiting for the real story all along.